I have a fun idea. Let's talk about the psych ward. Yeah! First things first, I was taken into the psych ward by police because someone had recognized that my behavior was a little bit off, and they called it a mental health emergency. And yeah, I was taken to the psych ward by police. I wasn't admitted to the actual ward right away. I was put in a holding cell, and in the cell, a man who worked there sat me down, and he asked me, like, do you know what you're doing here? And I was so delusional at the time that my answer was, yeah, this is another test. You're just Torontoing me right now. And then he said the words, gotcha. And to this day, when people say the words gotcha, I'm always like, what did you get out of me? You caught me at something? You got me? Ah. At one point, they asked for a sample of pee. Probably to see if I was on any sort of drugs that would explain why I was acting so strangely. But because I was so delusional and out of my mind, I didn't realize what was actually going on, so I argued with them. I said, hey, I'll give you a sample of pee if you agree to release me. They didn't like that. And I guess I must have seemed a little manic, because the next thing that happened is they strapped me down and injected something into my veins. I don't know what they injected to my veins, but wow, it was weird. It was like a scene from a movie. Anyhow, then they somehow got in contact with my uncle and told him to stop by the holding cell. Maybe just to show me that, you know, there's people out there that care about me and whatever. And I remember my uncle got there and he said to me, you know, you're not getting out today. I had no idea what to say to that, so I said nothing. So they placed me in this, like, closed-off, locked room with handcuffs on, and they had already, like, searched through all my pockets and taken everything out, but they missed a lighter and a receipt, and for whatever reason, I'm like, oh, clearly my next course of action is that I need to set this receipt on fire, so I did. Didn't get in trouble, for whatever reason. Outside of my door, someone who worked there was walking, and I could hear their footsteps, and my delusion at the time was that if only I could have the right state of mind and send out the right perfect positive vibes, eventually this person would come to my door, open it, and set me free. It was part of my delusion that psychic ability existed, so... At one point, I started singing a song, because I thought that was the appropriate thing to do. It's a song called You'll Be Bright by Cloud Cult. And it's because I was hungry at the time, and I thought, I heard the phrase sing for your dinner before. I think my mom used to use that phrase. I was like, well, if I'm hungry, I better start singing so I can get dinner. Eventually, they let me out of my holding cell. Wow, it was a triumph, because finally I had sent out all the proper vibes, done all the proper steps, and goddammit, I was free. I had escaped. Good job, me. But then, to my dismay, I was admitted to the actual psych ward. It was a moment of, okay, I have leveled up from challenge number 1 to challenge number 2. Challenge number 2, escape the psych ward. I can do it. Let's do this. So they put me in my little room. It was kind of nice. It had like a nice little bed, a nice little closet, a door that opened and closed. It wasn't locked. Nice. And a nurse walked in and she informed me, you're having a psychosis. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And part of my condition was that I was a bit of a mute. So on the inside of my head, I'm just thinking, why don't you just read my mind? Duh. You know, because I had a psychic delusion, a delusion that psychic ability existed. And she's like looking at me like, she's like, come on, say something. And I'm like, I'm saying all of it with my face and my mind. Why don't you just listen to like the inside of my mind, you dumb bitch? So there was a divide between where the patients were and where the doctors were. There was just kind of this like wall with a big window where all the nurses and doctors hung out. So the plan to get released was to prove to the doctors and nurses that I wasn't crazy. I was very sane. So to prove to these doctors and nurses that I was fine, my plan was to stand outside of this wall, not twitching. Because I had a weird twitch that went along with my mental health issues, and if I could prove to them that the twitch was no big deal, you know, they'd let me go. Another thing I did to try to prove that I was sane, because sane people have jobs. So for no reason, to no one in particular, I just yelled out, "I need a job!" Didn't help my case too much. Eventually, I was put on risperidone, which is the most common drug prescribed to people with a psychosis or who have schizophrenia. And I was also issued a legal document stating you cannot consent to treatment, meaning you cannot say yes or no to treatment. And I remember thinking, that's smart. Because the part of my brain that knew I wasn't well, thought that was a pretty good idea on their part. So they had to force feed us these pills, and they actually had a nurse whose job was to check your mouth to make sure you hadn't hidden your pills under your tongue. And I had taken the pills, no problem. I was happy to take them because my whole life I had always wanted to be on medication to solve some of my mental health issues. So I took the pills and I was fine with it. But because she was there and she was so adamant on making sure these pills were in my belly, I pretended to hide them under my tongue. So I went like this. She's like, ah. She's like, come on, lift your tongue. I'm like, do it. And then I lifted my tongue. And she's like, and she saw that I'd swallowed the pills, and I said, just kidding, just messing with you. Because I, even in a psychosis, am pretty fun. So out of the blue, all of a sudden, my parents showed up. And I don't know why I said it, but I said, oh, there you are. Almost as though some part of my brain was expecting them to be there. I remember they interviewed my family, don't know what about, and I remember I was given one-on-one time with a psychiatrist, and then we did a group talk, with me, my family, and the doctor, and yeah, it was basically agreed that as long as they took me with them back to Ottawa, I was allowed to leave the psych ward. And as soon as I released, it was kind of wow, party over. I guess it's now time to get well. Because I guess having the reality of being in a psych ward, being around nurses and doctors, and having your family come rescue you kind of is the tipping point between, am I sane, am I crazy? And I had finally accepted, yep, crazy. So in Ottawa, I found a clinic. I was put on better medication. I took it. I've been on it for 6 years now. It took at least, 2 or 3 years to actually get used to them and get better. But now I am better, healthier, saner than I was before I even went through my psychosis. I had my first depression when I was 8, and finally I'm medicated, so all of those issues are gone, and I'm happier. I'm healthier. It's great. So now I just want to spread a positive message. I mean, I would have been medicated a lot sooner if there wasn't so much stigma surrounding treatment for mental health issues. And I'm lucky, because I've had the experience of being mentally unwell, so now I can relate to people who have mental health issues, and now that I'm also well, I can relate to people who've never had mental health issues as well. It's great. I'm well-rounded. I'm lucky. It's great. Anyhow, that's just another bit of experience that I've been through as a schizophrenic person. So subscribe, comment, share, whatever you want to do. And I apologize for the length of this video, but I thought it was good to get it out. So now it's out, and I hope you enjoy it. Alright.